right, today I'm going to be talking about the three things that every business has to have in order to be successful. But before then, I want to talk a little bit about me. Talk about my favorite subject, which is me. From here in Birmingham, went to Mount Brook High School, went off to college, and then came back to go to law school or an MBA at Cumberland and Sanford. Got out, and I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My dad bought a franchise of Express Oil Change, ultimately bought the company, and then sold it before he passed away. And my cousin's also a franchisee, but I also have several other cousins and aunts and uncles that all own their own businesses. So I wanted to do the same thing, but I wanted to beat them, of course, because a lot of business owners are pretty competitive. All of my family members own their businesses about 29, 30, 31 years old. I wanted to beat them, so I went to law school so that I could start my own business before them. So I started mine when I was 26. So I started in January 1, 2011, and I've been doing this for about 2 years, and it's kind of what I do. But what I do is I help entrepreneurs start, grow, and ultimately sell their businesses. And the way that we do that is we focus on three key areas that make sure that any business is well protected. First off, you have to have the legal foundations to make sure that your business is properly protected. Secondly, you have to have a protectable product or service in order to make sure that you get the most value for your business when you ultimately sell it. And then finally, you have to have an exit plan. Very, very few businesses run well forever. Ultimately, through different stages of the business, you will need to bring in other people and change the way that it's set up. So you need to have an exit plan if you're going to be a successful business owner. So the first thing we'll talk about is your legal structure. The most common and most dangerous legal structure that there is a sole proprietorship. It means that you've done absolutely nothing to set up your business. You just hung out a shingle one day and say, I'm selling X or I'm doing Y at your place of business or your home. That's a terrible idea. 98% of businesses in the United States are sole proprietorships. 98% of businesses have absolutely no legal protection if you screw up. So say you're cleaning somebody's gutters out and you fall down, or you have somebody come to your house and or they have an employee that comes to their house and employee falls off the ladder. They can sue that guy personally. They go after his car, his house, his his kid's college fund. I mean, that's terrible business practices. But that's what 98% of businesses do. The most simple, the one that I typically recommend for 90% of businesses is an LLC. I mean, at least have something. But make sure you go to somebody that knows what they're doing. LegalZoom is great for somebody that's going to sell maybe $2,000 worth of stuff over the course of a year. But that's it. It is not, I mean, they have law students write those contracts and everything. Don't go to LegalZoom unless you're just really going to make nothing. But I do complicated setups. I do multiple LLCs, hierarchical systems that are set up vertically and horizontally to make sure that your issues are segmented. I dealt with a company at one point that had 42 separate corporate entities to make sure that they were properly segmented across different liabilities. So if an employee got injured, they sued one entity that didn't necessarily have any affiliation directly with their physical location. So they could keep their physical location open and they could carry employee liability insurance on only one entity. That ultimately helps. There's a way that you can structure that to make sure that you keep your insurance down low. But I do simpler ones too, where it's only 2 or 3 LLCs to make sure that everything's properly segmented as far as geography or your main liability areas. Secondly, you got to be able to have a protectable product or service. Most successful businesses don't have a patent. A lot of people think that when you hear a protectable product or service, it's a patent. Patents are typically not necessarily the best solution for every single business. We look at some of the most successful companies. They don't have patents. Coca-Cola has never filed a patent. They deal in what's called a trade secret, and that trade secret is a legally protectable intellectual property. So there's a lot of other ways that you can protect your images or your businesses. For instance, Express Oil Change, my father's company, never filed a patent. They have very, very few copyrights, nothing of any value. But mainly what they have is a trademark, their image, and trade secrets that they use, their processes and procedures that they've developed over years that are protectable products. Ultimately, they have been able to find a way to sell those products, and to both franchisees that were willing to buy into the business, and for folks that are wanting to use the service, that get the benefit of it without somebody having to remake the wheel. Anyway, so there's more than one way to protect your products or services, and the way that most services and products are protected are through contracts. It's the tiny fine print that ultimately makes things very, or ultimately decide where things go. If you have a sales guy who knows everything about your business and he's not under a non-compete, he can immediately take his entire book of business across town. Because it's his, you actually have to contract to make sure it's yours. So if you're a business owner, doesn't necessarily mean that your salespeople are yours or their client list are yours. They could easily take them and then the next day sign up for your competitor and take their entire book of business with them, unless you've had some kind of system to set up to protect those products and services. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is exit plan, and this is one of the most important things. And you hear Steve talk a lot about goals. Goals are where your exit plan comes in. Your goals, as you've heard Steve say, need to be specific. They need to be written down. They need to have a fixed, measurable outcome so that you can look at it and say, we're checking this box, we have completed this. Being the best at something is a BS goal, because it means nothing. It can be standard. It can be judged against no standard whatsoever. But if you say, I want to make $1 million in revenue this year, you can check that box and pop the bottle of champagne when that happens. So setting a clear, identifiable goal is very, very important. If you need to do that, you need to talk to Steve to make sure that you have that in place. However, it's very, very important that once you set those goals, make sure that you have them written down. Don't share them with anybody besides maybe your attorney, a CPA, and a business coach. But you need to have some kind of reflection of those goals in an exit strategy. Once we've made $1 million, I'm out of the business. The reason this is important is business owners will know running a business is fighting a war. Every single day, there are no less than 5 things that can ruin your business. You have competitors. You have investors. You have the bank. You have employees. You have the government. Just look downtown. Birmingham's about to outlaw food trucks. The government can come in and decide as a matter of policy, we don't like your business anymore and we're going to shut you down. That's basically what's happening with food trucks downtown right now. So at any day, you have no less than 5 entities that can ruin your business overnight. So fighting a business is a war. You wouldn't fight a war without knowing what your goal was, what your exit strategy was. And it might be a huge, big goal. For instance, World War II, we're going to shut down Germany. That was a big goal. But it was clearly identifiable when that goal had succeeded. So there's no problem with having big goals so long as they're clearly identifiable. Because as soon as you achieve those, you need to be able to follow your exit plan and be able to get out of it, because running a business is fighting a war. Now ultimately, what do I do to help set all these things up? As far as legal entities, I get those registered and everything taken care of. I can negotiate situations with investors, with your banks, and situations so that everybody has something to go home with. The old joke is that a good negotiation is something where everybody goes home and everybody feels like they've lost something. So if you can ever get into a situation where the bank feels like they've lost something, you've worked out. But anyway, I help negotiate those to make sure everybody goes home happy. Secondly, I can help with your intellectual property. I have somebody that I work with on patents, but everything else I can do in-house. I can do trademarks, copyrights, trade secrets, any kind of contracts to make sure that your sales folk are not going to leave you, and make sure that all of those are fully fleshed out. And then finally, defining an exit plan and executing an exit plan, I can help with that as well. That's the buy-sell agreements, that's managing the closing, and even sometimes matching you up with somebody that might be a good buyer for you. So what I'm looking for in 2013 are those folks that never actually addressed one of those issues. They never started in a legal manner. They never really did anything to protect their products or services, or they never clearly identified an exit plan. It's a lot cheaper to manage those on the front end and go ahead and get them taken care of, or you can manage them on the back end. It happens to be a little bit more expensive, but it's never too late. And one of the things I do is I offer a general counsel service for that. I have a service that I provide. It's a flat monthly fee that we can handle all of those things and get them taken care of for a predictable fee. So anyway, again, my name is Trip Watson. I'm with the Watson Firm, where we help entrepreneurs start, grow, and sell their businesses.
Great. Thank you.